Raymond. That's you, isn't it?
The BSAA. A little too late.
What is the FBC doing here? Answer me, Raymond.
I don't have to answer anything. You have no authority.
Raymond Vester is one of the most mysterious people that Jill Valentine and Parker Luciani will encounter during the events of the game Resident Evil Revelations. An agent of the Federal Bioterrorism Commission, or FBC for short, Raymond would be a rookie during the events of the Terragrigia panic in 2004. What he would see during that time and his opinions on Morgan Lansdale's decisions in the fiasco, eventually leading to him working with Clive O'Brian to bring his supervisor to justice. A turn of events that would set the entire world of counter-bioterrorism organizations ablaze in the process.
It's time you learned the truth, Ms. Valentine.
The story of Raymond Vester as we know it begins with his service in the FBC during the Terragrigia panic of 2004. At the time, Raymond was a rookie with the organization, with his first field experience likely being that of this doomed city. A bioterrorist group going under the moniker of Veltro had pumped a new virus into the Aquapolis, and as a result, Terragrigia had devolved into absolute chaos. At the behest of Morgan Lansdale, the FBC would descend on the city to see what could be done, but after 3 weeks, it was clear that the battle was all but lost. Raymond himself had been injured on one of his patrols, suffering a debilitating leg wound that seemed as if it would spell his end. Luckily, as he was getting mobbed by hunters, 2 other FBC agents would come to his aid. Parker Luciani and Jessica Shirawat had happened to hear the gunshots, rushing to assist the rookie before finding a tourniquet to address his injuries. They would manage to escort Raymond back to the base of operations, but upon arrival, they would be confronted with just how dire the situation actually was. In their absence, Lansdale had been making plans to eradicate the city with the use of its own solar satellite, the Regia Solis. This decision would come under heavy scrutiny from an NGO assisting with the outbreak, the BSAA, whose director saw the destruction of the city as a band-aid solution. Destroying Terragrigia would destroy all hope of finding out how Veltro had managed this attack to begin with, a sentiment that Raymond full-heartedly agreed with. In the end, however, neither had any say in the matter, as Lansdale would make the final call, wiping the city off the map with a devastating solar downpour. For Raymond, Lansdale's actions would cast a shadow over his commissioner's intentions. He'd been so quick to drop the hammer on Terragrigia. Was there a chance that he was involved? These thoughts would eat at Raymond, and as he investigated further, he would find circumstantial evidence that his hunches were correct. He couldn't just outright accuse Lansdale, though. He needed something more concrete. And so, remembering O'Brien's dissent, he would approach him with a proposition to work together and finally uncover the truth behind this now smoldering city.
Yeah, it's me. Uh-huh. What? Yes, that's fine. I'll take it from here. We'll have to speed things up. Starting now. Uh-huh. Good. Get to it.
The two would devise a plan to get Lansdale into a compromised position, attempting to put up a facade of a Veltro revival in order to scare the FBC head into action. However, in order to be seen as credible, the information couldn't come from them. They knew there was a mole within the BSAA that was working for Lansdale behind the scenes, but they weren't sure who it was. Parker Luciani and Jessica Shirawat were the most likely candidates since they were former FBC agents, but there was no certainty, so the net had to be cast as wide as possible. They would begin by setting up a station in the mountains, seemingly recruiting people who were sympathetic to Veltro to act as the face of their deception. At the same time, they would get a lucky break as a video of Jack Norman would surface and send a wave of panic through Lansdale. With this fear, he would send Raymond and Rachel Foley to investigate the Queen Zenobia and kill any Veltro agents they'd find. But while Rachel attempted to carry out the mission, Raymond took the opportunity to look for evidence. Unfortunately, he wouldn't find anything of significance, but the location was too critical for the search to be with his eyes alone. Thus, he would make plans with O'Brian to intensify their provocation. With foreknowledge of the mole, O'Brian would craft a narrative to send Jill Valentine and Parker Luciani to the Queen Zenobia. Meanwhile, Chris Redfield and Jessica Shearwatt would discover the remote mountain base before being pulled to look for Jill and Parker. Raymond would impersonate a Veltro agent during this time, and in the end, their ploy would be successful. Through his mole, Lansdale would hear of the events surrounding this Veltro revival, responding with the same playbook of destruction that he had during the Terragrigia panic. Unlike during that tragedy, however, O'Brian's men had managed to find something, evidence of a ship that had sunk during the satellite's solar attack, a ship that had been housing the leader of Veltro and the bulk of his followers. For Raymond, though, the mole was the more pressing matter. During his observations of Parker and Jill, he'd come to trust that they were unaware of the greater Terragrigia scandal. But as he went to divulge what information he had, he would be shot by the newly arrived Jessica Shearwatt. Parker would rush to his side, ripping off the mask that he'd been using to impersonate Veltro, before Raymond would warn him of the infiltrator. Putting the pieces together, Parker would confront Jessica with his suspicions, but in the end wasn't able to accept that his former partner would betray him, a refusal for which he would pay dearly.
Don't be fooled, Parker. Parker!
Jessica would shoot her former FBC comrade, using the opportunity to flee the scene and activate the ship's self-destruct. Raymond would attempt to aid, but Parker would push him to rush after Jessica, a task that, after a moment of hesitation, he would accept. Unfortunately, in the maze of the ship, he would seemingly lose Morgan's spy, resigning to his failure and going back to look for Parker, but he was gone. Raymond would scour the ship attempting to find him, eventually happening across him as he stumbled around the bowels of the vessel. The kindness he'd showed the rookie back in Terragrigia now repaid, as Raymond would rescue his injured friend. Parker would be found drifting alone in the following weeks, eventually managing to make a full recovery and return to duty. O'Brian would also get all the necessary evidence to finally bring Lansdale to justice for the atrocities he'd orchestrated in Terragrigia. As for Raymond, however, he would go missing. Whispers of where he went, bringing with them the questions around his intentions. Were his efforts truly from a thirst for justice? Or was he even further entrenched with another shady organization? Raymond Vester is one of the most mysterious men that you'll meet as you make your way through the horrifying halls of the Queen Zenobia. A young man whose history and motives are as murky as the deep waters of the Mediterranean. When did Raymond turn from the bright-eyed rookie into an illusory spy? Did he really lose Jessica in the chaos of the ship, or was it yet another ploy? We may never know the answers to these questions, but despite as perplexing a man as he may be, there's still a depth of honor inside him, all birthed from those terrible days back in Terragrigia.
By the way, why save Parker?
I have my reasons.
The BSAA isn't as useless as I thought. Things could really heat up.
Indeed, the fun's just getting started.